think you already started recording, correct, Amy? Did not? Okay.
No, that was someone else, but I did just start now.
Oh, all right. Okay. Um, Good afternoon, everyone. I am Mike Latcha. I am the current president of the um, AAUP chapter. And what we're going to do this afternoon is share a presentation that sort of walks through the process of um, the market adjustments that are coming in that will be allocated this fall and into the fall of 2026. Many of us are have were not here or don't remember what happened in 2016 and 17 when these were done the first time. So we thought we'd just give a little refresher and um, um, get this get everybody sort of up to speed as soon as I figure out what's going on here. Okay. First of all, how and whys of the market adjustments. These were first negotiated in the 2015-2020 faculty agreement. And the market adjustments were meant to address several things. One is that, of course, the OU salaries were lagging behind in many fields. Um, we also attempted to address salary compression and even salary inversion. And I will show you as we go through, and unfortunately, we're going to have to hit the math parts before these make sense of how exactly those we tried to address those issues. So with a broad goal, we're trying to use this money to adjust salaries to be more in line across fields and academic rank. And the additional goal is to take this bargain money and distribute it as efficiently as possible, where people's salaries are very much out of line with the national averages for those fields and ranks. So a joint committee of 3 administrators and 3 AAUP representatives will be named by January 15th in the year in which market adjustments are to be allocated. So this coming January 15th, there will be a new committee put together. And then in 2026, there will be yet another one put together for that round of market adjustments. The people who are eligible will be identified by January 30th. And all full-time faculty are eligible except for, and we're going to go through this list, but generally, these are going to be people who are going to be continuing at Oakland, who are not in line for a significant raise in the next year or so. And who do not have the ability, because they're on limited contracts, to regularly negotiate their salaries. So all full-time faculty, except for those hired in the last year, presumably they would be coming in at something at least close to their market salaries. Assistant professors and special instructors in their last non-tenured or non-job secured term. Again, these are mandatory reviews, and they will end either with a significant increase in salary or the requirement that those people leave Oakland. Research full-time adjuncts are now professors of practice, because they are on either limited contracts with end dates, or they have the ability to regularly have the opportunity to renegotiate their salaries. Those with merit scores below 3, and these are from the year previous to the allocation. And so, for instance, in January of 2025, we're going to have to start getting these things together, and the only merit scores we will have will be from the year before. We won't have 2025 merit scores until, in fact, May of 2025. Um, Also, people who are not eligible are those on phased retirement, permanent reduction of workload, who have submitted a written intent to either resign or retire. Again, these folks will not be continuing at Oakland. This money is really earmarked to be allocated to people who are continuing at Oakland. So for each eligible faculty member, we will go through the data that Oakland has and gather their area or field of study or teaching, their base salary, their rank, and the number of years in their current rank at Oakland. And these numbers are going to be used. This information is going to be used to determine what their how they line up with the comparison data that we will also be gathering. We will also, across OU, determine the average years in rank for associate professors and for professors. The last time we did this in 2017, we found that the average years in rank for associate professors across all of Oakland was about 8.5 years, and for professors was 12.3 years. This becomes important when we hit the math, and we'll see this come up relatively soon. The salary data that we're getting from to compare Oakland salaries to, that salary data will actually be determined by the committee. And we set when we negotiated this in 2015, we set a very short timeline to determine what comparison institutions would be used. Some of us know that Oakland has many sets of institutions that they use to compare themselves to. There is a set of institutions that they believe are one notch below Oakland. There's a set of institutions that Oakland believes are its peers. There's a couple of sets of Oakland or of institutions that Oakland believes that they aspire to, both in the near and long term. So there's those institutions, and then there's in 2016 in particular, the committee engaged in a very interesting discussion of what we should be comparing to for market salaries. So the university, of course, wanted to include places like Lake Superior State, and so they did that. So we said University of Michigan, and when we kept going back and forth, they kept adding schools that they thought were poorly paid. We kept adding schools that were highly paid. Eventually, we said that we were going to use all of the universities across the entire country. I think there's 329 of them. So that's in fact what we did in 2016, and then we did that again in 2017. That, however, does not mean that the committee that is composed in 2025 will follow that same set of comparison institutions. That's determined by the committee. The source of the data will be the College and University Professional Association data. So this is an association that it's for college and university professionals, typically administrators. And what they do one of the things that they do is they maintain a database of academic salaries sorted by SIP codes, which is the classification of instructional program codes from I'm going to now blank on it. It's a national education association that publishes these SIP codes. So the reason for this Coupa data is so that when a university wants to hire somebody, they can look up what the average salary is for that field and that rank, and so that they're not over or under offering that new hire. And that's the reason for the database. In order to access the database, you have to be a member of this association and you have to contribute data to the database. The AAUP chapter at Oakland is not a member, so we need to rely on Oakland querying this database. Oakland does belong to CUPA, and we have to rely on them to get the data for this committee. Just to talk about zip codes in case you're not familiar with them, they are it's a number that describes an academic field. It can be up to 6 digits long. As pairs of digits are added to the zip code, the description gets more specific as to the academic field. So as an example, all of engineering starts with the numbers 1-4. Electrical engineering is 1410. Mechanical engineering is 1419. If we wanted to get into subfields of, say, mechanical engineering, there would be 2 more digits applied to. So if it's fluid dynamics, if it's mechanics, if it's thermodynamics, each one of those has another couple of digits to add to that to get to a full 6-digit zip code. In 2016 and 17, the committees decided that only 4-digit zip codes were necessary to adequately define any faculty member and identify an appropriate set of average salary data for that faculty member. And the committee can assign zip codes as appropriate to describe that academic field of it. And you really do want groups of faculty members. You don't want this to be so specific that you're just talking about one person. You do want groups of faculty members. That's really the way this model works best. So for each academic field zip code that we will need to describe the faculty, the Oakland would then go in and find that the Cooper average salary by rank. So we will find the average salaries for special instructors. Now, what we would be looking for in this case is not a job title that says special instructor. We would be looking for full-time non-tenure track instructors. So there's that description almost everybody has. We'll get the average salaries for assistant professors, associates, and then full professors. By February 15th, then 2 weeks later, we will determine what are called the market adjusted salaries, and this is the math that's in Appendix N in the back of the contract. So the CUPA and the average years in rank at Oakland are put into the equations in Appendix A, and these were formulated to model the faculty salaries as they move through ranks at Oakland. So I'm going to show you a graph that has these that has these equations depicted on them. And we're going to use the data from 2017 so that we'll say that we can use this, we can look at this just as sort of an abstract. Okay. And I'll explain this as we go, that a faculty member's base salary then will be compared to these market adjustment salaries. So this is for a particular zip code in 2017, and this was the model that was produced. So the lower line here is for the special instructor. This was the average salary for that zip code special instructor from the national database is in the center here. The model assumes a $500 per year increase in salary over the length of that special instructor's stay at Oakland. One of the things that was bargained in 2015 is that we were assuming that a special instructor would be a special instructor for as long as a professor was a professor, full professor. Um, what that does and what that $500 a year does is it sort of favors people who have been here longer than um, relatively new hires. And again, what the market adjustments was supposed to be doing is trying to alleviate things like compression and inversion. Compression is where people who have been here a long time are making are they're only making a little bit more than people who are newly hired. Inversion is when the people who have been here a long time are actually making less than the people who are relatively new hired. Okay, so that's the way the special instructors go. The tenure track ranks are a bit more interesting. So this is the assistant professors. As we know, people only spend 6 years as an assistant professor. So year 3 here is where the average assistant professor salary is that we get from the Coupa data. So a person would be hired at this salary. They would go up to the end of their term as an assistant professor. If they successfully pass their tenure review, what they do is they get a tenure or a promotion raise, and they go back to 0 years in rank as an associate professor. And then they're following this line. This is the average years as an associate professor at Oakland. The way this model works is at around this time, those associate professors would go up for full. If they're successful, they get an increase in salary, and then they go back to 0 years in rank as a full professor, and then travel this until they leave Oakland, either through retirement or going somewhere else. If you trace this from a new hire at assistant through this line and then to the average years here, and then up to the end of the professor line here, that actually is a 39-year career at Oakland, if all of that happened at Oakland. So the model is reasonable in terms of the time, in terms of where average salaries or average years and salaries line up. Okay. Now what happens so each one of the zip codes, each one of the fields, when we get the data from Coupa, we're able to build these lines for each one of those fields. And then we take all of each faculty member and we plot their salary and compare it to their rank on these lines. So, for instance, if a full professor that's been a full professor for 5 years, if they come in sort of where my cursor is, then they are above their market salaries, and they would not be eligible then for a market adjustment. We're certainly not going to decrease their salary to be on this line. We will let them be above it. An associate professor who is, look, for instance, that it would be plotted, say, if they're in rank 15 years, not quite twice as long as the average. If they come in below this line, then the difference between their salary and this line is the amount of market adjustment that they could be eligible for. And that's the way these models work. One thing I'll note is that there are associate professors who are here far longer than twice the average. In that case, this line then extends horizontally here. It does not continue to increase once you get past twice the average length of time people are at associate. And the same thing happens at a professor here. If someone has actually been a professor for 50 years here at Oakland, this line would go horizontally. It would not continue to increase. Okay, so we have these models for each of the zip codes. We can plot each faculty member's salary against these lines. If they're above the line, then they're actually doing well and they are above the market, um, these market adjusted salaries. If they end up below the line where they are in years in rank, then they are eligible for a market adjustment. So then by April 15th, and then again and in the fall, before the final allocation is done, the committee apportions the bargain market adjustment to the base salaries of the faculty who remain eligible. That is, everyone who is below their market adjustment line. The reason to do this again in the fall is because between April 15th and the time when the market adjustments hit the September paychecks, things happen. People decide to leave. People decide to retire. Um, Other reasons why people are no longer at Oakland. So instead of just losing that money, the committee will revisit this, and if there are changes like that, there may be a reallocation as we're getting ready for the September paychecks. So um, as the committee is apportioning this, there's the first thing that happens is the total market adjustment is calculated. This is the amount required to bring every faculty member up to their market adjustment salary. This is typically a fairly large number. Well, it has been a large number. And if this number is less than the sum that was negotiated and shows up in the contract, then everybody gets that adjustment to their base salary, and everyone is at their market adjusted salary. And if there's anything that remains, Oakland gets to keep it. We have not hit this condition yet. Perhaps sometime in the future we will. So what we have been, however, hitting is that if the total market adjustment, what we need to bring everybody up to the market adjusted salaries, if that is more than what we have to give out, then the committee has to make some decisions. So in the contract, it says those allocations are based on any or all of the following. So the committee could say that, okay, and we can't give faculty members all of that the difference between where they are and where they should be. So we'll just do a fractional portion of that. Or they can say that there'll be a maximum amount of adjustment per faculty member, and people will not get more than that, but all the other ones could, or many of the other ones could be accommodated. Or they could set a floor and say that this is the minimum dollar amount of adjustment per faculty member. And as they're making these decisions, they are driven by three things: that the allocation strategy has to be applied the same way to every eligible faculty member. The goal is to provide meaningful market adjustments for as many eligible faculty members as possible, while apportioning the entire amount available for adjustments. And in 2016 and 17, in fact, we had to do a combination of all three of those. We had to set a floor, we had to set a ceiling, we had to set a fractional amount of everything in between. So in 2016, there were 401 faculty initially eligible for market adjustments. 339 of them were eligible after their salaries were compared to the Coupa data, which meant that 62% of the faculty that were eligible were in fact above their market adjustment salary. Good for them. In order to hit the full market adjustment, that those adjustments ranged all the way from $24 all the way up to $51,000. To go across the entire faculty for full adjustment, $3.5 million was needed to do that. In the contract in 2016, we had $325,000 to allocate, a bit less than 10%. So what the committee had to do is come up with an allocation strategy. We said that there was a $200 minimum. Everybody that needed below $200 got what they needed. We thought that $200 was the minimum amount that was meaningful. We then said that people that needed more than that would get 15% of the market adjustment with a maximum of $1,300. That allowed us to give all 339 eligible faculty some kind of adjustment. At least 80% of those received the maximum amount of $1,300 before we ran out of the $325,000. In 2017, another committee was formed. We went through the process again. In 2017, 369 faculty were initially eligible. 307 of those eligible after being compared to their market adjustment salaries. Interestingly enough, it's the same number, 62 of them were above their market adjustment salary. We did not go back and compare to see if those were the same 62 people. They may have been. For full market adjustment in 2017, the adjustments ranged from anywhere from $6 to, again, $51,000. We needed across the entire faculty $2.8 million for full adjustment. And again, we had only $325,000 to allocate. So the total was getting smaller, but we didn't have enough to really significantly address that again. The allocation strategy in 2017 was, again, a $200 minimum. In this case, the committee opted for a 14% market adjustment for those above $200 with a $1,650 maximum. Note that we have considerably fewer faculty eligible for adjustments. So we were able to increase the maximum quite a bit. And again, about 75 or 80% of the faculty who received adjustments received the maximum adjustments. They did not go very far to addressing the very large adjustments or the very large differences between the market adjustments and faculty salaries. Now, I will point out that some of the very large adjustments that we calculate are sometimes they're because of what kinds of things we teach in some schools. Like for example, we do organizational leadership in education. Organizational leadership is typically a business school kind of topic or field, and the SIP codes reflect that. The SIP codes and the Coupa data that we get sometimes also have some structural things that don't fit with Oakland. For instance, the Coupa data that we found in some of the business school departments in 2016 and 17 were in fact had inversion built into them when we applied our promotion increases. So when we put things into the models, it turned out that professors were in fact getting paid less than associate professors according to our model. So we had to shift the models a bit so that was not happening. Of course, we didn't want to continue that or make it worse. So the committee has a fair amount of latitude to adjust things so that we're able to correctly distribute this money. In terms of money that will be distributed, in 2005, there will be $500,000 available to allocate. That process will begin in January 15th of 2025. Because we will not have merit scores in 2025 until May, the faculty will become eligible using the merit scores from 2024. And the same amount will be available to allocate in fall 2026. And again, will begin in January of 26 and using merit scores from 2025. And with that, I will okay, I'm looking at chats. I see no questions. Do we have questions?
Janelle, go ahead.
Janelle.
Hi guys. So what struck me with the sort of that last part of the first of all, thank you for sharing all this because that was I know just to spend the time to put this together was time consuming probably, and all the work that all of you guys do on behalf of all of us all the time. So I wanted to make sure I get that in there before I forget.
Thank you.
And the last part where you talked about with the merit scores, it sort of triggered a thought to me of that. So if someone has, since we've gone to this merit system, what, 8 years ago, 9 years ago now, if someone consistently performs at the top level and gets a 5 and gets the top raises, which this year, at least in the School of Business, I was pretty shocked at the difference between what we gave for like 3s and what we gave for 5s. Because I mean, a 3 is supposed to be average, right? That's supposed to be like your base score and you're doing a good job. I was kind of shocked at the difference, but that's another story, I suppose. But if someone got the top raise every year, in theory, they would be penalized with the market adjustment because they're getting closer to market because they're doing a really good job. Does that make any sense? Like, so it's almost like it's not really fair in a way to the people who do exceptionally well, or am I not thinking about this the right way?
No, the people who are doing exceptionally well are getting higher than average raises. I mean, if those people are getting 5s, then they're getting higher than average raises. And understand what we're doing is we're making sure with the market adjustments that we're trying to at least address things like compression and inversion. Okay, if there is a superstar that is continually getting higher than average raises, I would probably expect them to be over their market adjusted salary, in which case I would say good for you. Okay. The merit scores, remember the merit scores, a merit score below 3 makes you ineligible to participate from the get-go. So less than average performance, at least as defined as what you had just said, would then make you ineligible to even initially begin the process to get a market adjustment.
One of the things I was thinking while you were saying it that I don't think you said out loud is that it's possible for people to get market adjustments in year 2 and 3 to continue
Absolutely.
to be eligible.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure I said that.
Yes.
Other questions? Tony said the other way to look at it is I can get threes, do average work, and still get extra monies. Is that right?
It is right, yes. And understand that it's actually in Oakland's benefit also that they keep up with at least average or something close to average salaries for faculty. Um, if you are, for instance, doing average work, but not getting average raises, and you are falling farther and farther behind your field in terms of average salaries, when you leave, for instance, when you retire, it then becomes a fair shock to Oakland to replace you in terms of how much extra they have to pay in order to hire a replacement. So it should not be, it really should not be unusual that just because you being compared to people within Oakland are not getting average raises, but every once in a while there's an infusion of money to bring you up to a field average. That should not be an issue. Jennifer?
Hey there. Thanks for the information. I just wanted to make sure that I am thinking about it correctly. When you talk about the 15% of market adjustment cap in 2016 and 14% in 2017. So would that be interpreted that your true market adjustment was much, much higher than that? So for instance, if it said it was $10,000 and a 15% cap, that would have been $1,500 that you would have
Yes.
received?
Yes.
Okay.
As long as that was underneath the maximum, yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
There's a question there. Could you clarify how it will be communicated if someone is deemed to receive an adjustment by the committee? I assume that comes in your annual salary letter in August.
I suppose it could, because the annual salary letters were not a thing back then.
Oh,
So what we did, I believe, is for sure in 2016, and I believe also in 2017, is that every faculty member who received an adjustment received an email very similar to what we had here that had their previous base salary, their market adjustment salary, and the amount of market adjustment that they received. Okay, thank you, Rob.
other questions? Someone wants to know how they can know the average salary for each rank.
I'm not sure that information was communicated the last couple times, but are you talking about the day one? Are you talking about the Coupa data? But we can certainly ask the committee to make that available. Sure.
It would be nice to even put out like the equivalent, the chart you had.
Mm-hmm.
Do that for each year and send that out to the membership so everybody kind of knows how it worked. And we'll send out this slideshow too. Everybody feel like they can do all that math now?
You guys can start volunteering to be on the committee.
I don't see any questions, Mike.
Okay. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email and I will see if I can answer them. Again, Amy will send this out. We'll have this available. The presentation will be posted somewhere, I'm assuming.
YouTube.
YouTube. Okay.
Yeah. And I'll email the YouTube link and the slideshow to everyone.
Okay. Yep. And this will, of course, be on the final. So,
Okay, can you take out the part where my picture showed up there? I was trying to be polite and turn my camera on, but I didn't know it was going on YouTube. So,
It was very small, Janelle. You're fine.
yeah.
okay, fair enough.
Someone wanted to know if you're going to be sharing the Coupa data. I don't know. I mean, you don't typically share out all the Coupa data, do you? I mean, I guess we could. I don't know.
Well, I mean, we don't, all we would get, well, remember, all we get are average salaries for instructor, assistant, associate, fulls for the zip codes that we ask for. That's all. I mean, that's the data. That's, it's a couple of dozen numbers.
Okay. All right. I think we can wrap up.
Okay.
We'll get this all emailed out. Just a reminder, we have a meeting tomorrow at 11:30 if people want to discuss issues with the Dean of Students. And just a reminder, it's a members only meeting. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.